All right, so I have my array. My first dimension here is an array or an array list. It doesn't matter. And in each element of my array, I have another array. So like, how could I access this element right here? You know, if this is tic-tac-toe, hey, look at that. I made a perfect tic-tac-toe board, right? And so let's say I have X, 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 and O, 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 right? And so now I want to place my next X. How do I know where I want to place it? Well, it works pretty much the way you would expect it to, right? This is position 0. This is position 1, and this is position 2 of my big array. So array, let's call it something different. Let's call it array XOs. So XOs, can you still see that on the screen? Yeah, okay. So XOs at position 1 is this entire array right here. It is an array. If I want to get this element of that array, well, 0, 1, 2. So this is position 2 of array number 1. So I just have 2 dimensions now. So it's not actually really any different than the arrays we've already known. And if you wanted to have Minecraft, for example, you would just have to add an array inside there. And Minecraft is written in Java and uses exactly that kind of notation. If you've ever used the server commands to like go to a location, it's XYZ. That's exactly what you do. Is you go to some giant array inside an array inside an array. That's how it keeps track of your entire world. It does it a little smarter than that, but that's basically the way it does it. All right.
What is Bedrock?
I don't know. Isn't Bedrock written in like rewritten in Objective-C or C# or something? I don't remember. But they're like not compatible, which is super annoying.
It's
C++. There you go.
That's why it's so much worse and no one likes it.
So this image that they show on the screen is actually a really bad example, right? You have to think, I would prefer you to think of it as my example, because all the elements are not separate from each other, right? The arrays are inside the other arrays. So, yeah, nobody came up with bingo.
Wow.
And Battleship is a great example because so after the AP exam, when we have no learning left to do, the IBM volunteers are creating a Battleship tournament so that each school can play against each other. So you JM and Century folks can beat it out and Battleship form, and we'll do it against the Mayo folks who have their own class and their own teacher.
Is it going to be like building an AI?
There'll be a whole description of how to do it. But you can think of it like an AI, sure, why not?
I didn't know explore either.
So I don't want to confuse you with this because it doesn't really matter for our, Yeah, I don't really care about that. I care about how Java stores. So Java stores arrays, as I was saying, as an array of arrays. So each element in the outer array is a reference to an inner array. And while it is technically possible to create different length arrays on the inside, we won't be doing any of that. For our purposes, you can just assume that all of the inner arrays are the same size, so it's actually a grid. So you can think of the arrays however you want, but the easiest way to do it is to think of them as the, I drew it the wrong way around. Kind of. Yeah, I drew it the wrong way around. All right. Yeah, so let me fix my drawing quick here because I want you to be clear. It doesn't really matter how you think of it, as long as you understand that it's an outer array and an inner array. So what just to be, because I want to be consistent with the textbook, right? They do it this way instead. So you can think of it like this if you want. If it makes it easier for you, I don't know if it does or not. But this is, so in this case, position 0, position 1, position 2, right? And then here is 0, 1. These are the columns, right? So the first number is the row, and the second number is the column. It's literally the same thing. It's just, this is the picture they use in the textbook. So you'd say my array with the row and then the column. So what number down is it? And then what number across is it? So if you wanted to look at this one right here, which one would it be? 1, 4. Because this is 1 and this is 4. Some programming languages actually have matrices built into them, which is kind of cool.
Are they the programming?
Yes. So the first high-level programming language was C, and it was written in assembly until they had enough C that they could write their own C compiler in C. So the first language was literally written in itself. Because they had to start with 1s and 0s, right? And then they created shortcuts for the 1s and 0s called assembly language. So instead of add being 0010101, memory location 011110, to monitor the 0 and store it in memory location, blah, blah, blah. So you had this long string of zeros. They created shortcuts called assembly language. So you could type add, and it would know that that's instruction 01100. Memory location 4, 00100, memory location 6, and stored in memory location 10. And then once they had the assembly language, they had to write all those instructions in order to be able to translate a C program into the ones and zeros. But then once they had done that, they could write C programs to translate the C programs into ones and zeros. That took like 40 years.
What Java?
So Java, so all high-level languages are not coded in anything. What they are is a description of rules and words that you can use. And then you can write a Java compiler that converts that in any language you want. All it has to do is convert the text you wrote into Java bytecode. So you could do it by hand if you wanted. Anyway, you'll take a class in programming languages one day and you'll hate it just like I did. Hopefully you don't have to write your own compiler. Oh my God. All right, so this is how you declare a two-dimensional array. This is just creating the variable that will store it. So this does not allocate any memory. This doesn't do anything except tell Java that I'm reserving this variable name for a two-dimensional array. So the top one is a two-dimensional array of integers. The bottom one is a two-dimensional array of strings, whatever. So if you try to do anything with these, Java will barf and tell you, it doesn't exist. So you'll get out of bounds array and all these weird errors. So just remember that just by declaring it, you haven't actually created anything yet. So if you want to create something, you actually have to do this. So again, the way the textbook does it is number of rows and number of columns. And like I said, all of the inner arrays will be the same length. That is the easiest way to do it. You can assume for this course that all two-dimensional arrays are rectangles. So if you look at the ticket info, there are 2 rows, and inside there are 3 elements in each row. But kind of like the one I did, except with different numbers. Seating chart has 3 rows with 2 seats in each row. All right. Here is the summary of this. Like they say here, ragged arrays, things that have different length inside, are not going to be part of this class. When we use it in this class, you can just assume that we're talking about the row first and then the column. You can automatically create arrays the same way you did with arrays in chapter 7, right? Because they're just arrays of arrays. So you can create an array with squiggly braces, and inside that, you can automatically create your 2 new arrays with squiggly braces. So this would be 2 rows with 3 elements each, and inside would be 25, 20, 25, 25, 20, 25. Alrighty. Any questions on this stuff?